This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. We have Ashley Wenskoski, I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters in Syracuse who bring you this podcast talking about the facts, the fascination, and the farm behind the New York Mets. We are coming to you tonight at a crisp 12:04 in the morning after the Dodgers smoked the Mets, for lack of a better word, 10-2. How are we feeling, Ashley?
Folks, I'm really sorry. I am clearly at my house, at my childhood bedroom. You can see the Mets stickers that I have on the wall from when I was a kid. The David Wright fathead that I've had on my wall since I was a child is over here to join us. Really great stuff. I'm officially declaring it's over. I'm actually not even in panic mode anymore. I think I went through the 5 stages of grief tonight. And honestly, reflectively, as you all saw in the episode, I think last night was my panic. And tonight I'm just sad. Tonight, if we're through the 5 stages of grief, I've just accepted my fate tonight. And I've lost the mad. Now I'm just sad.
It's so weird that you say that because literally prior to this episode, I was like, well, at least the good thing about us being on Zoom is that I'll have my computer so I can look things up. And I literally looked up the 5 stages of grief because we talk about it so often that I actually wanted to know what they were. And I wanted to see where I was. They have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I think you're at acceptance. I really do.
I am.
And
Yeah.
I think I'm depressed. I'm
Yeah.
not ready to I'm not ready to accept it until I absolutely must. But I will say I feel like my emotion right now must be similar to the way maybe like a dad feels when he like finds that his son had stolen alcohol from the cabinet. You know what I mean? I'm not even mad. I'm honestly disappointed.
Which is the worst. If you've ever had someone tell you that they're disappointed in you, that's probably the worst thing you could ever say. Yeah, to set the scene, I said this a few days ago, but I had to come home this weekend for a wedding. The wedding's tomorrow night, Friday, and so I actually got to watch this game with my dad and with my parents, and I was really excited, looking forward to this on the schedule because I knew, obviously, with me not living at home anymore and living in Syracuse, it's rare that I get to watch these games with my dad. And tonight was just not a good time. It was just a clunker of a game to do that. And look, I hate to fold on this team. I hate to even say that that's where my head's at, but I don't think the stats lie. I mean, 3 out of these 4 games against the Dodgers have not only are the Mets down 3-1 in this series, they've been blown out 3 or 4 times in this series. Stranger things have happened and I know that, but to just see the energy out there tonight was nothing short of heartbreaking. And those Mets fans that were still at Citi Field in the 9th inning of this atrocious 10-2 loss, you could still hear people chanting "Let's go Mets." You still have people in the crowd singing "My Girl" when Lindor came up, and that, folks, is just Mets fans. They are resilient to the final out.
And if you want the stats, here they are. It said it on the broadcast that historically, when a team takes a 3-1 lead, 82% of the time they win the series. So those are your odds. To Ashley's point, so far in this series, the Dodgers have outscored the Mets 30-9. I wanted to just talk about this at the end, but I think it just makes more sense to do it now. The thing that is upsetting me the most about this, I would be upset either way if they lost this series just because I feel like the run they've been on is so magical. But I'm more upset because this is not even competitive. I
Yeah.
I feel like the Dodgers fans right now have such a warped version of who the Mets team actually is. Or maybe I do. Maybe it's me. I've honestly thought that this series has totally shifted the way that I've felt about this Magic and what we've seen. I feel like the Mets are that team that comes from behind. The Mets are the team that punches back. This was not punching back at all. This was laying
Yeah.
down and rolling over. Where is the magic and where is the fight?
Yeah, I know that going into this, I'll be the first one to own up to it, right? I
And
said that I wanted the Dodgers. Of course, hindsight 2020
I said I
upon
didn't. And you know I
review.
said that.
Yep. And I know upon further review, that does not seem like it was a good choice. Honestly, upon further review, when you consider what has led to the Mets' success and magic this year, and it was coming back late in games and getting to bullpens, that's clearly not a good matchup for a Dodgers team that has a really good bullpen. But even besides that, I think we just need to talk about it right off the jump. The Mets going into this series, the reason why I felt confident that the Mets could pull this out was because their starting pitching had been on such a magical run. Aside from the bats and the saving and the hits that saved the season and all of that, the starting pitching had been so good down the stretch. Not just one or two of them, but three or four of them, okay? So coming into this series with a Dodgers team that doesn't really, usually have as good of a starting pitching. The one flaw in the Dodgers train was supposed to be their starting pitching. And in the 3 losses for the Mets, their starting pitching has faltered all 3 times, and the Dodgers has held up. So when you get that in a series where your lineup, to be honest, probably already is overmatched, that's just a tough combination. I mean, but the lineup tonight, runners in scoring position, is horrific. I don't know what happens when runners are on base with this team in this series. They just forget how to hit. The wind gets taken out of their sails. But the Mets did have 10 hits tonight. It was almost funny to look at the box score at points because I know the Dodgers ended up with more hits than the Mets at the end of it. But it was almost funny because at one point in this game, the Dodgers had 8 hits and the Mets had 8 hits. And I believe the Dodgers were up like 8-2, 10-2. So that was just a funny thing to look at for a time there. It's just the stuff with runners in scoring position, but I want to go back to the pitching for a second because I know you want to talk about this. It is the walks from the pitching staff. We said this last night. I believe they walked 9 batters as a collective unit tonight. My dad's sitting there with me pointing out there has not been a game in this series where the Mets pitchers walked less than 7 batters. 7 batters. That's 7 free passes. 7 guys who shouldn't have been on base. And God knows how many of those turned into runs. I mean, you just can't do it. You just can't.
Well, that's the problem, right? It was 9 walks tonight. And the amount of those that led to runs. I think that the problem when you talk about a mismatch, there could not be a worse mismatch for the Mets right now. And that's why I said that I felt like this team would be the toughest team to get through from the way that the pitching has worked out for them. But yeah, if you want to talk about the pitching and the walks, this Dodgers team is so disciplined. And I know that that was even on display last night, but tonight it was just different. I literally sent Ashley a text during the game and I literally was like, why are the Dodgers such good boys? I literally feel like they're like the best dogs you could possibly have. Like if the Dodgers were dogs, all of them would be sitting down. Like if you said sit, they would sit. If you said come here,
They
they
only
come
go
here.
fetch when you say go fetch. They don't run around otherwise.
And when you say go fetch, they go fetch it and they bring it back to you. It's ridiculous. Like total rule followers, man. And it is really tough. And I saw they were setting the scene tonight in the broadcast saying that Quintana, compared to some other Mets starting pitchers, maybe even starting pitchers in general, a lot of his pitches are outside of the strike zone. So yeah, that's a mismatch. They said it was a cat and mouse game, and all I know is that the Dodgers won in that. The amount of walks, of course, it led to runs, and then you cap that off with the other side of it, which we'll get into in a minute. But the runners in scoring position. But before that, let's at least just say tonight, Quintana 3.1 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 earned runs. I mean, it was not good. It was not good at all.
It was not, listen, it's tough, right? Because there's been so many times throughout this postseason that it seems like Jose Quintana's turn comes up and he has to have the start of a lifetime to keep them in this, which he did in the last series in the NLCS. But it's just tough when, like you said, that's not Quintana's ball game. Really, Quintana's MO is kind of getting hitters to chase. So going into this game, you sort of felt as though that was a mismatch. I was texting you throughout the game, like you mentioned, and when Quintana came out after 3 1/3, like this is not good. You need to, and I was saying to my dad as well, throughout this series, the Mets so vaunted for that starting pitching. It's not that the starting pitching's been terrible, but it hasn't been good enough. I mean, I know they scored 2 runs. I know the runners in scoring position. I guess you could say it's kept them in games, but when you have to bring your bullpen out there in the 4th, 5th, 3rd, like it's not where you want to be having to pitch your bullpen for 2/3 of a game. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw Carlos Mendoza make some of those bullpen decisions tonight, it felt like they folded. I mean, to throw Danny Young out there for as long as he did, but can I fault the guy when the Dodgers have a 7-2 lead? Like, no. I don't know what we're saving it for tomorrow. Like I said yesterday, like we're quite literally out of tomorrows. We have literally tomorrow game 5, and we don't know if we have anything beyond that. But it's tough. And I'm going to tell you something right now. We are recording this right after the game, so we're not listening to Carlos Mendoza's post-game press conference, so maybe this is out by now. But if Carlos Mendoza throws Kodai Senga tomorrow to start, I am going to shoot myself into the sun. I'm going to be at a wedding tomorrow, like I've said, and I just start David Peterson for our morale, please.
Meanwhile, Ashley at this wedding is having just the worst time.
I'm on my phone. I've already been informed that the wedding hotel does not have FS1.
No.
Proceedings of the wedding start at 6, which you might realize is a terrible time considering the game's at 5. I'm gonna have my portable charger. I'm gonna have my phone, so we'll figure it out. But anyway.
She's gonna figure out a way. But I agree with a lot of that. It felt like every decision tonight was the wrong one because then of course Puto comes in and it literally immediately gets worse.
Yeah.
But honestly, I have to say, out of all of those decisions, I actually think leaving in Young was the best one. I really do.
Yes.
Because at
Yes.
that point, I mean, come on. The game is over and done. And even Anthony DiComo actually had a tweet about this, and I don't know the exact wording, but I thought he was totally right. DiComo, who is a pretty well-known Mets beat reporter, was essentially saying a lot of people will not remember Danny Young's role in this if, for whatever reason, the Mets end up pulling it out. But his role tonight was important. They left him in. He got plowed through. But
Yeah.
still, if the Mets are able to somehow pull this out, he did his job because he gave all of the other people in this operation the rest that they needed. I actually like
Yeah.
that move. I thought that was the right call. Everything
No,
else up for debate.
yeah, I agree with you at that point when it was so far gone, it was the right call, but it doesn't change the fact that you just kind of felt, I mean, of course, when it's 7-2, when it's 10-2, but I mean, it just, Citi Field just felt like a morgue. It was just, it's so tough to know. I considered going to the game tonight with my family, with my sister. Like I said, I'm from Pennsylvania, not that far away, Philly area. Those ticket prices, just to know how much those people paid to get in and just to have two just absolute utter stomping blowouts in a row in game 3 and 4. It's just tough, man. It just really is.
Worth saying, the Mark Vientos home run was awesome, and we both saw it,
Great.
and we both rejoiced and had a moment. He, as an entity, just him as a human being, I've been obviously really impressed with, and I think that the way he has flourished in the postseason is something that we should not forget and remember even when it comes to next year. But beyond
Yeah.
that, I mean, dude, the 0 for 8 tonight with runners in scoring position was the final nail. I mean, in the sixth inning, I think there are times throughout the game. I would say Ashley is quicker to jump off the train than me normally. She's ready to hang it up. But for me, the place where I really hung it up was the sixth inning struggles. Bases
Yeah.
loaded, no outs. I mean, I'm telling you, I was convinced that Iglesias was going to hit a grand slam, a grand salami, I might even say, and the whole game was going to be changed. Instead, he struck out. McNeil got in and popped out. And then the inning was over. I'm trying to think, who was it after McNeil? I can't remember it right now.
I think he pinch hit for Alvarez and Winker hit it to,
And
you
then
thought it was
Winker.
run off the bat, and then it wasn't. Yeah. And I will say, I mean, we've been such advocates for, right, give McNeil at bats, give Winker at bats. I still agree with that. I thought that Mendoza should have shook up the lineup before tonight. I know that these are the guys that got you to this spot, but you have to, I think this is where some of Mendoza's rookie manager inexperience is showing because it's not about loyalty anymore. Like, we're running out of tomorrows, as we keep saying. If Alvarez can't buy a hit, if JD Martinez can't buy a hit, which I know he walked tonight, and I guess you could say had better at bats, but honestly, not really. Alvarez got a hit, all that, and Mendoza's, like, I guess, defense of that. These are the guys that got you to this spot. You got to have confidence in your guys. Sure, that's worked to this point, but you need to manage with a sense of urgency in this spot. You're already down 2-1 in this series. You were lifeless last night. I just needed to see other guys in there tonight. So he pinch hits McNeil and he pitch hits Winker, and they both pop out. Winker's got us excited for a second. But even I'm sitting there saying to my dad, that's a really tough spot for Jeff McNeil and Jesse Winker, two guys that have had no at-bats, or I think McNeil had one yesterday. Jeff McNeil hasn't had a major league at-bat in a month or two, and you're just throwing him out there. Like, it's just tough. At least give him the start so he can feel acclimated and whatnot. The pinch hitting is just, it's a tough spot for those guys.
Well, that's the problem. It felt like, of course, and no, we're not going back on this. These are the kinds of things we asked for last night, but not in this way. It was a bad decision to not start them, and then they doubled down with a worse decision to just throw them in cold in the sixth inning and just hope that something happens. Like, hope is not a strategy. We say that all the time. You need to come into it with something different, and they didn't do that. Like I was not necessarily mad with the idea of at that point you may as well just throw anything at the wall. And I
Yeah,
have to actually say, I did not think that McNeil had a bad at bat. He hung in. And
yeah,
Winker, like you said, that was maybe one of the most exciting points of the entire night, which is sad to say, but it's
yeah, yeah,
true. Like just even the ball being in the air for F's sake, like made me feel excited about how far the ball could travel.
yeah.
But to your point, these decisions felt like they were too little, too late. The
Too
switch
little,
should have
right?
happened earlier. And now at this point, just show me something and learn from your mistakes now. Switch things tomorrow. People are not going to judge you for that. That's what we want. Like, switch things around, do something different. We need to see. I understand. Okay, I know Alvy had a hit, but he still has a 167 average in the postseason. JD Martinez got a few walks. He still got no hits again. Let's see
Yeah.
some new people. Start
Yeah.
Winker.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I mean, look, tomorrow it's win or go home. We know what the Mets have done in these win or go home spots, but this is quite certainly the biggest uphill battle. They have not had a spot where it's win 3 times or go home. I'm not going to say it's impossible, never say die. Because of the Mets, I'm actually quite confident in saying that I think they're going to win tomorrow
Me
and
too.
prolong our suffering and take this series back to LA and still lose it. But, anyways, that's just the negative part of me talking. But to your point, I'm sitting there again with my dad watching, and he's like, you know what? F it. Tomorrow, start Acuna, start Terens, start Winker, start everybody who has not contributed to this downside throughout the NLCS. Now, do I think he's going to do that? Honestly, probably not. But I wish he would start Acuna out at second base. Can he be any worse than freaking Iglesias, who literally has been absolutely useless? I don't think so. Now, probably start McNeil. If he were to do that, it would be McNeil over Acuna, and I understand that. But the point is just throw anything at the
Yes.
wall to see if you can get something started offensively. Lindor had 2 hits tonight. I believe Nemo had 2 hits tonight. It's not to say those guys obviously have not had some of the firepower and the heroics that we're used to. Mark Vientos had 2 hits. He had a nice home run. Alonso even had a hit, which was shocking because before this he was 1 for 12 in the series, might I add. But it's just like you said, it's too little, too late. Your star power guys haven't had quite the star power against this Dodgers pitching. And it's really, I think the problem is 5 through 9 in this lineup, 6 through 9 are just absolute dead weight. So switch it up tomorrow. It's win or go home. This is it. The season's over. Just do something different to make us feel something.
Like make me feel something again.
Something. Make me feel
I just want
joy.
to feel something. I want to feel a little joy in my life, a little whimsy, I might
A
say.
little whimsy.
Like and like I understand it's worth saying we've said this in the past, obviously, and we've been in this situation before, but 2 runs against the Dodgers, normally not enough to get it done. 0 runs against the Dodgers, never enough to get it done. So it's not to say the starting pitching and the pitching does not matter because it most certainly does. That doesn't feel like the biggest problem right now to me. I feel like this game gets blown out because of the fact that they're not hanging in. Like there
Yeah.
aren't, it felt like tonight, like there have been times throughout this postseason where I've felt like, okay, the Mets got down by 1 run, 2 runs, maybe even 3, and they could come back from it. Against this Dodgers team, I just don't feel that way. Like
I
they're
know.
down 1 run, and I'm like, this is the limit. Like
Yep.
you need to fight at this direct point, or else it's going to be too late.
And I believe it was Tom Verducci made an excellent point during the broadcast on the sidelines. I think it was in like the 8th inning when I was half tuned in, half tuned out watching it, but commiserating with my father. That this Dodgers team had some crazy stat. I forget what the record was, but all year, basically, you don't want to let the Dodgers get up because they win like 80% of the time when they get out to a lead. So I think the Mets, the important thing in this series was to pounce, it was to get out early, and we just haven't seen them do that. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough for me to feel like, and I know it isn't over yet, so please, but to just feel like this is how it's going to end, because as we keep saying, this Mets team has just been such a story, such never die, such comeback time after time after time. Obviously, they ran into a team where that doesn't work and the wind's out of their sails, and I understand that. But for this to just be how it ends is just so deflating on a season that has been, I think, so reinvigorating for so many Mets fans. Like, I don't even feel like they're having productive at bats in this series. I feel like they're giving away at bats, if I'm going to be honest. They're swinging at bad pitches and they're watching strikes right down the middle go right down the middle. They're not having good at bats. They're just not stringing hits together. They don't have that collective energy as a unit that we've seen throughout this season. And all of that combines to obviously the point we're at right now. And it's extra brutal because it is at Citi Field. And I truly believe that all they needed to do was split in LA. And I really felt confident going back to Citi Field that they could at least take 2 at Citi Field. I really did.
No, me too. And again, it's not to say, because it has been very well documented on this podcast, that the Dodgers are a great team. And tonight they looked great. I'm sure that a lot of Dodgers fans think this is the Dodgers team that we've seen all season long. I felt good right up until the immediate Shohei Ohtani home run, and then they did not.
Yeah.
So again, he continues to be a factor, and he will be a factor throughout the duration of this series. But I think two things can be true. The Dodgers are a good team, but this is not the version of the Mets that we saw the whole postseason. And I think
Yeah.
even Dodgers fans can agree with that.
Yeah.
That is why it would feel defeating, is because they were showing cutaways, shots of people in the crowd at the end of the game. No, Ashley, you don't even, I feel like you don't know what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
They were like laughing, like they were like having fun because they had come around to the 5 stages of grief. At that point, they were just like there for a good time because they're like, we'll just stay just because we paid for the ticket. That is how I don't want the season to end. At least send these fans home with some heartbreak that's worth it because you were in the game at all. You know what I want to see an effort like? Honestly, I want to see an effort like what I saw from the Cleveland Guardians tonight.
Yeah.
That is some postseason October baseball right there.
And
That's what I
some
want to see.
Yeah, and something that the Mets have done numerous times throughout this postseason. Yeah, I agree with you on the cutaways. They range from people literally looking like they were in tears to people chugging their beers and, like you said, laughing. Just like that's how you know you've reached the 5 stages of grief when you're not you've hit acceptance. I feel like a lot of fans at Citi Field tonight hit acceptance, and that's never really where you want to be, especially heading into just a game 5. I mean, this is a best of 7 series, folks. We've only played 4 games. Like I know it's 3-1 Dodgers, but it's just tough. It's just tough all around. It's just tough for it to end like this, like I keep saying, because this was a team that I think brought so much joy to so many people this year. And to just go down seemingly without a fight, I know people are going to say that they fought, but it doesn't feel like it in this NLCS. It really doesn't. To go down seemingly this way is tough. But that is why I'm going to go on the record, and I think they win tomorrow. I really do. I think they at least take the series back to LA and they prolong our suffering. I don't know. We'll see.
And they prolong our suffering. I I am going to go on the record and say that I don't think it's not over until it's over.
Yeah.
It said an 82% chance, according to the broadcast, that the Dodgers, who are now 3-1 in the series, would win it. That means that there's an 18% chance that the Mets win it. And I'm
Did
going to
you
make
say
this,
81?
huh?
Say 81%?
82, 82.
Okay, I was gonna say let's try to do it. Sorry,
This podcast, not great math, people.
we're journalists. We're journalists.
But 82 and 18 is adding up to 100 if you ask me.
Very good.
So listen, I'll take those chances, and we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. Anything else that you want to say before we wrap it up and get out of here?
You're not gonna like this one, but I
Oh,
do just have to say, in the instance that tomorrow's the end of the road for us folks and I can't be with you, this kind of feels like I'm giving last rites right now. I'm not gonna.
Ashley,
I bless you
no,
all.
no,
No,
stop.
I gotta say it. I gotta say it. In the instance,
Ashley,
I'm sorry that I can't be with you all tomorrow night. It was a great run. Thank you so much to all of our new subscribers and new people that have been with this episode. We're going to keep going, but I hope it's not the end. And I sincerely, truly hope to see you on Sunday night after game 6. But if I can't, this is me telling you all that I appreciate you all very dearly.
you know how much the Dodgers fans are going to love that? Mets
I'm
fans who watch this podcast, I still believe we will see Ashley back here over the weekend when we head back to LA.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, of course, we always say it. Thank you guys so much. This last episode, we saw how many Dodgers fans there were, which means a lot to us. This is a podcast where we want to bring all baseball fans together, really. So thank you. Keep on coming back, and please know that whenever the end of the season is, this podcast will continue and we will go back to our format of once a week, and we will continue doing that until the next season when we plan to continue it then. So thanks for sticking with us. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, any social media, YouTube at YMetsPod. And I think out of all the nights that we've done this, tonight might be the most we've thought, why am I a Mets fan? So thanks for joining us, and hopefully we have a positive answer to that question when we come back. Thanks.
Pray to Grimace or whoever you believe in.